Hey everyone, this is Jared Broadfoot. I'm one of the founding members of the Oregon Outdoor Council and wanted to kind of hop on and give an explanation and kind of go through the archery review process that's happened since last September to give everyone an idea of timeline and then help everyone understand the compromise that was reached between some of our groups and the department, and wanted to really clarify that that was a salvage opportunity for something that we knew was coming down the pike and probably going to get shoved down our throats. So we wanted to make sure we had as much impact. But let's start with time frame, and I'll try to be as brief as I can and then answer any questions that you guys all post up. But first and foremost, last September of 2020, the ODFW Commission directed staff, after staff received considerable pushback from all of the groups and all of the sportsmen and women out there saying, no, we don't think that an archery draw for elk is the right thing to do. So the commission directed the department, at a lot of our urging, to create a work group and then go out and collect more public input. That was September of 2020. In February of 2021, after how many months of a global pandemic, we, the Oregon Outdoor Council, Stan Steele, our board chair, sent a letter to the Director of Fish and Wildlife and the Commission, kind of saying, hey, we want to be an active part of this work group. We hadn't heard anything from them since September, so we're trying to get the ball rolling again, trying to be accepting that we were in a pandemic, but knowing they wanted to rush this thing back to the Commission. So in February, we wrote a letter and kind of outlined, hey, these are our expectations for a work group. A work group means we actually get to sit down, work on the issue, talk about all the issues, and then come up with some solutions and consensus and move forward. And that's not what we got. March, the department started their virtual road tour, as I'll refer to it, which was basically our so-called work group meetings were virtual Zoom meetings where the department got to lay out their newest plan that they released in March of 2021, and where they went over it, told us why they had to have it. It became very clear to me as a work group member at that point, what I was hearing was a narrative change yet again, to why we needed these archery changes. And it's been a moving goal line for the last several years of why they're doing it, why it's needed. So when we started these work groups, I was hopeful, but when I started raising my hand and said, hey, what about predation? We have to talk predation. Predation's a major impact to our elk herds. We were told we can't talk about that. This isn't the right place to do that. We're only here to talk about archery and limiting it. Same with private landowner issues or pushing elk onto private land. Any of those issues that we brought up in the work group, we were told, no, we're not here to talk about those. So it was very clear that we were back on track with a predetermined outcome. We went through this, so you notice in Fish and Wildlife's correspondence, they'll show you all the virtual meetings they had. Not one thing references a work group. There was any collaboration until the very end. We realized we were going to get this shoved down our throat more than likely, so we started reaching out, sportsman groups did, to see if we couldn't get an in-person meeting. And thanks to Commissioner Labhart, he helped us get an in-person meeting in the Dalles in early July. I mean, we're talking less than 30 days ago. We had this scrambled in-person meeting, which was hosted by the sportsman organizations. Commissioner Labhart graciously kind of served as our moderator, and the department was there. And we really started and said, we don't want to draw, but if we're going to get it shoved down our throat, then let's try to reach some compromise on these points. And we spent 3 hours is what we got. It's all the time we were given. The department said that's kind of what they were available. But anyway, it was the same thing. Okay, well, we're talking about a draw. Well, okay, if we're going to talk about a draw, then how do we hold the department accountable if the commission does this and adopts this plan? So that's what we went through. You'll notice that, you'll notice we'll talk about youth here in a second, but so we came to some consensus on stuff, and the way we view that consensus is, we signed on the letter because we wanted to have an impact on something if it was going to get shoved down our throat. Our hope and our communication to the commission is don't adopt this plan, even with the consensus stuff, because this isn't the solution. This is absolutely not the solution. And the biggest point that I'm trying to make to the commissioners, and I think a lot of people should, is we were never given a work group. You cannot call this process a work group. Whether we agree or disagree on this issue, you can't call this process a work group because we weren't allowed to work on the issue until Commissioner Labhart graciously stepped in and said, yeah, I'm willing to mediate, a last-ditch effort to try to find something. So, I mean, we kind of look back at this. We need to be talking about predation. We need to talk about managing our forests. We need to talk about managing elk as a resource. Elk should be managed the same way on private land and on public land. Elk should be managed the same way no matter what weapon is used to harvest them. And for crying out loud, folks, we haven't been able to use dogs and bait for bear and cougar hunting since 1994. And every year since then, we've lost elk tags, we've lost deer tags. Predation is a major issue. And trying to pick on the group that has the least amount of impact to the resource is just absolutely frustrating as a whole. So hopefully that explains the process we went through. So after that compromise that we reached, we came out. One of the biggest pieces of that compromise that this stuff doesn't apply to youth. There's absolutely no reason that we limit youth. We need to bring them in. The R3, the retention, recruitment, everything that we're trying to do there to bring new hunters in. So we wanted to ensure that youth still had an opportunity. After we reached that consensus, the department came back to us, I think it was about a week later, and said, no, we can't do the youth portion. When the groups, OHA, OOC, and others asked why we can't do that, the answer was it's too much of a biological impact. Let that sink in. 12 to 17-year-olds that hunt archery elk, according to the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife, have too significant of a biological impact to be allowed not to be part of this proposal if they adopt it. That was the last straw. That's the last line of BS and a long string and line of BS that we're being fed. And this is the time. This commission tasked the department with giving us a work group, all of us, so we could work on it. We asked the private landowners, cattlemen, ranchers, local law enforcement be involved because elk management, federal agencies, timber management. We wanted to have this large discussion and then identify the things that we could do as solutions, not just it's got to be archery and that's it. And that's really what happened here. So I'm hoping that this video shines some light on stuff. I probably didn't cover everything, but there are so many good pieces of testimony going out there and pointing out the discrepancies. The data that the department's using is hunter-reported data. And whether they like to admit it or not, they can't guarantee the accuracy of that information because they can't, with 100% accuracy, say if you lied or not. Did you actually hunt one day in Ukiah or did you hunt 30 days in Starkey? Well, if you told them you hunted one day in Ukiah, then it's not in their data. So think about that. Think about the data that we used to get here. Think about the process or lack thereof in the last year since the commission said, hey, you guys need to do this, department, work with our stakeholders. We didn't get worked with. We got told what we were going to do, and then we were forced to come to a compromise, trying to stave off what was going to be forced down our throat anyway. So it's kind of what's going on, folks. Let me know and comment if you have any questions, and definitely reach out to the commission. It's ODFW, so odfw.commission@odfw.oregon.gov. It's on the website. It's all over. We'll post it. I'll post it up too. But get your comments in, no matter how you feel about this. And this is certainly not the end. Hopefully this is another restart or another beginning, because we were supposed to start doing this last year. And we still have just been talked to. So hopefully that helps. Thanks.